Heat transfer. The energy equilibrium. Heat always seeks to find an equilibrium. Therefore, heat always flows to cooler objects until the objects are of similar temperature. When there is a hot object close to a cool object, the heat from the hot object will be transferred to the cool object until the objects are of similar temperature. Forms of heat transfer. There are three main ways of heat transfer: convection, conduction, and radiation. Convection. Convection is the heat transfer between fluids, which are gases and liquids. When a fluid is heated up, it becomes less dense and rises, leaving the unheated and denser fluids to sink. When fluids are heated and rise, cooler fluids sink into their position. As the heated fluids rise, they cool and become dense and sink. The previously dense fluids are heated and begin to rise. This process is called convection current. An example of a convection current is a fridge with a freezer at the top. That is the freezer. The air from the bottom of the fridge is heated up, causing it to become less dense and begin to rise. As it rises, it eventually reaches the freezer, where it cools down. This causes the air to cool down and become less dense. This results in the air to sink to the bottom of the fridge, where the cycle repeats. Conduction. Conduction is the heat transfer between solids. It is a heat transfer through physical contact. There are two types of solids: conductors and insulators. Conductors conduct heat very well, while insulators do not conduct heat very well. Generally, metal is a good conductor. Wood and air are examples of insulators. The better the conductor, the faster the heat transfer will be. An example of conduction is cooking on a hot stove. The pan used for cooking is generally made of metal, as metal is a good conductor. This allows the heat from the stove to be transferred into the metal, allowing the food to be cooked. However, the handle is generally made of an insulator, such as wood. This is because the handle from the stove is constantly being held, therefore minimal heat should be transferred there to reduce the risk of burns. Radiation. Radiation is the heat transfer between space. Radiation is when electromagnetic waves in space come into contact with an object. When the electromagnetic waves come into contact with an object, there will be heat transfer. A common example of radiation is the sun heating up the earth. As the sun's heat is transferred from space into earth, the heat is then transferred to objects within the earth, such as houses. Once the sun's heat is transferred into the home, the temperature of the house increases.